On behalf of the association, I welcome all of you for this wonderful session on the project that's going to come up in the Andaman and Nicobar group of islands. So we are going to discuss about the commercial importance and the strategic importance of this project. So maybe it will be functional maybe 10 years or 15 years down the line as a full-fledged operating unit. So now the speakers will be introduced by Captain Neil Nair, and I request Neil to come on the stage and
that is actually true. Okay. Now coming to the topic for today, which is the Gelatia Bay project in Andamans. As Neil briefly mentioned during my introduction, I've been involved in the development of ports most recently, almost for the last 20 odd years, and was a little lucky that I was given the task of developing three products. In Vizag, I was one of the major contributors. But for the Chennai second container and the fourth container terminal project in Mumbai, I was the CEO with the responsibility to deliver the project. So anything to do with ports has become more than a professional interest. So I therefore I like to look at these projects, but hopefully from a very realistic and objective angle. For that, there has to be a disclaimer. Everything I say is nothing to do with the company I work for. This is more my own opinion as a professional and also for AMICIE, which is exactly what we've tried to do. We've tried to, in AMICIE, to make ourselves a think tank who would come with objective, agenda-less inputs to the government. Fortunately, one of our earlier seminars received very good attention, which is seminar in logistics last year, and thereafter we made out a white paper which we sent to various forms of the government, and luckily it grabbed some attention. We've got some feedback from the PMO, and they have directed other ministries to take a look at some of the things that we had mentioned there. So it is with this encouragement that we started looking at other projects. And one of them on the horizon now, which is garnering a lot of attention. The Gelatia Bay project, in my opinion, is the perfect example of the trade-off that is required between environmental considerations and development. First and foremost, any port built anywhere is an interference with nature. So nature's got this beautiful beach, and you're going to go there and wreck it up and construct this port. But at the same time, development is also necessary. Port is the only thing which runs the logistics at the sea and land interface of the entire logistics chain. So and all port projects by their very nature are extremely capital intensive. Very high upfront capex is to be expended. Gestation period is long. The challenges are many, and in countries, especially in India, we say that we are the perfect storm because we have governance issues, we have issues with the license of port trusts and maritime boards from whom we take the license, and the tariff regulator literally killed us, and on top of all this, the cost of capital is very high. In most of the other geographies which I've looked at, one of these two things is in your favor. I've recently looked at a terminal in Colombia. So Colombia, as you know, you probably have seen too many of the Netflix movies. You've got the narcos, this and that. So there is a lot of violence, a lot of crime, and even in the terminal, there's a perimeter road which has to be patrolled every day by armed guards. Okay, so it's a very challenging environment. Okay, but the tariff is crazy. $300 per TEU is what the port operator is getting there. In India, they're very lucky if tank gives you even for $50. So that is the kind of situation in which we are there. And here now we have this particular project. I'm sorry, I think it's necessary for me to take a little bit of time in the background. So we have this project which, as briefly mentioned by me, it has got huge environmental challenges. At the same time, its commercials are also suspect, and unlike any other project in India, it's got a huge overlay on this geo-strategic importance. So here, of course, none of us in AMICIE know anything about geo-strategy, which is why we reached out, and we're very thankful to Commodore Vasan to come and share with us his view and his perceptions of this very important aspect. So, with these few words of background, let's jump straight in. The Gelatia Bay project is located this is where Gelatia Bay is located. It's located in the Great Nicobar Island, which is the southernmost. You can see on the right now. This is the southernmost of the entire Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Andaman and Nicobar Islands top to bottom of more than, I think, about 500 miles. And this is the very last bit. And within that, Gelatia Bay is the southernmost, the southern side of the Great Nicobar Island itself. So that is where the Andaman is located. As you can see, it's very far off, more than 1,100 kilometers from Chennai. Is Port Blair, and from Port Blair, there's, I think, another 300 or 400 kilometers to reach Gelatia Bay. So very remote location. And now, why is this place of such interest to build a port? Now, as far as containerized cargo is concerned, which is unique because the cargo is not stored directly in the ship, but it's stored inside a container, and it is that container which is lifted and loaded on the ship. And because it's highly standardized, these are ISO standard containers which are all identical. Either they are 20 feet by 8 feet by 8 feet, which are called 20 foot, or 40 feet by 8 feet by 8 feet, which are 40 feet. That's the sizes you have. Minor variations of these, but these are the broad basic sizes. And they're completely amenable to intermodalism. They can be carried by road, they can be carried by rail, and they can be carried by ship. And within sea transport, it can also be relayed, which means that it can be taken on the entire journey by a number of ships. First it goes on one ship, then it dropped off at a transshipment port, then it goes on another ship, and so on and so forth, till it reaches there. So the aim of this Gelatia Bay project is to build an international container transshipment terminal, and that's why it's also named as the ITCC. And as I mentioned, the place is quite remote. Even if you want to go to Calcutta, it's almost 2.5 hours by air. Chennai is about 2.5 hours by air. And last year, I think, or maybe, I think last year we brand new OFC cable connected this place from the mainland. So this is where it is located. Now, within the Gelatia Bay itself, there is an expression of interest called for by the government from various players to build and operate this port. And they have, government has got some agency to prepare a DPR, a detailed project report. And from that, this is the approximate configuration that they intend to do at Gelatia Bay. So they want to build a port, which is the ICTT, International Container Transshipment Terminal. There's no power in the Andamans. There is power, but every habitation has its own diesel generation. So it doesn't have a grid, and certainly it doesn't have the kind of electricity with power which is needed to run the container terminal. We have very big cranes, they're all 11 kV. So without a power plant, you can't do that. Then there is a plan to build an airport. And finally, of course, we need a township for all these guys to live and work here. So literally everything has to be built from scratch. That is the first major challenge as far as this port is concerned. The second thing is Andaman is still fairly remote islands. Not too much grows there, there are not too many factories there, and almost everything has to be shipped out from the mainland. At one time it used to have a fairly thriving timber industry, but then due to environmental concerns, the timber harvesting was stopped. But I myself, as a cadet way back in the 70s, recall going to all these places, including Gelatia Bay, to load, in the anchorage to load, because there were a number of the factories, and we loaded the entire gamut of timber products, logs, sawn timber, plywood, and the whole lot. So now the point is, what are the main challenges of this project, and what do we do? Do we say the challenge is too much, so let's give up? Or do we see what is the mitigation that can be done to make this viable? The first thing is container traffic is insufficient. Okay. We've got all these glorious motherhood statements which come, and invariably the ministry will appoint one of the big names, maybe KPMG or BGC or one of these guys, and if you read their reports, it's all very macro. It's very macro. India's GDP is going to grow at so much, this is going to sound so much, this is going to sound so much. And they want you to assume that because those figures look rosy, at this specific port, in this specific location, also things will be rosy. That's basically what typically a KPMG or a BGC report says. Okay, but we've been there, we've done that, so we know that this is a serious. Welcome. This is a serious issue for us to be able to do that. And if a port project, as I just mentioned earlier, it has huge challenges because the capex is very high, it's upfront, the gestation period is long. So if you do not get the traffic volume projections correct, if you do not get the tariff that you want to charge correct, because tariff is again very competitive, you can't charge too much because the customer won't come to you. And yet, you should be sufficient for you to be able to service your debt, you should be able to operate the terminal, you have to pay a land lease, and you have to pay invariably a royalty as well. So to cover all these expenses and still have some kitty in the pocket, that's a delicate trade-off and balance that needs to be done. Therefore, your traffic forecasts are absolutely critical for the port project. Okay. And I just come to a little while later as to why these traffic projects projections may not be. But as I said, our aim in AMICIE is to look at something positive, and we do believe that there are certain other port-specific opportunities which are available at this location, where the location can be a huge advantage, which are not cargo activities, but still they can be undertaken here, and they're more or less of a permanent nature. And these are, what I would really call old economy opportunities. Then you have a whole host of new age technologies for which Mr. N R Krishnakumar is speaking, and I don't know much about it, so better I keep quiet. You have to take into account that now you're talking about an international container transshipment terminal. And right now, almost 63% of India's traffic, container traffic that goes out of India, is being transshipped at some other non-Indian transshipment terminal. These guys are going to keep quiet. Okay? So you're going to have competition from new terminals as well as from existing terminals. And of course, one major thing, because I've been involved in development of ports, is also the actual construction. The construction of at Gelatia Bay is going to be a huge challenge, because as I mentioned, there are no materials available locally, everything will have to be imported, and as they say, from pin to potato, you'll have to bring it there. And then typically when we're doing a project of this size, you'll have almost 3,000 workers on site during the construction period. And those guys have to be accommodated, fed, and even for them, everything has to be planned in advance. So it's much more challenging than any other port project that one would do on the mainland. Okay. Now, how do we compete with international terminals? We have competitive tariffs. We'll have to have incentives to exporters to ship. There was an interesting historical background to this, because at one time, what was happening is almost all the cargo from South Malaysia started going to Singapore. Singapore is a very big transshipment terminal. And then they had a new Prime Minister, one Dr. Mahathir. He took over as the Prime Minister, and he was a little nationalistic kind of guy, and he said, no, we must develop our own. And then in that unique Malaysian way, they, along with a joint venture with some big business tycoon, they developed this port of Tanjung Pelapas. And once that port became active, this Dr. Mahathir did two things. He said any Malaysian container that goes across to Colombo, to Singapore, you pay extra. You want to go to Singapore, you can, but you pay extra. But if you ship it through Palapas, we'll give you a discount. Okay, so those are little artificial kind of incentives, but the fact of the matter is, for a new terminal which is trying to get something like that needs to be done. And I think one of the big problems which we face in shipping industry is there is very little coordination between the shipping ministry and various other ministries with whom we are involved. Okay, and we've had, and some of these generate huge challenges once we start a project. Okay, so for example, I was involved in a Bombay project, and when we started, the rule in India was at that time was service tax. And service tax is completely exempt for original works. If you are building a new port, you are exempt from service tax. Then one fine day GST came. Okay, and everybody forgot about this, that this is the necessary. The problem is these things can happen. Of course, countries will change, and GST is a good thing to happen. I don't disagree. But the point is there has to be a certain degree of flexibility to undertake specific cases. And most bureaucrats are terrified to do that because the moment they do that, they could be accused of favoritism. You are doing it only for this guy, you're not doing it for the other. So those are some of the challenges. So what I have always suggested to the ministries, even before a project starts, please find out what are the challenges and peculiar to that project. Okay? And maybe peculiar to all projects, but what is peculiar to that project? And whatever is the requirement to go and deal with other ministries that has to be done. For example, I think this terminal most certainly requires some kind of GST exemption, at least to the startup phase, and some kind of TDS offset. Okay, now there is a new rule which says that if you remit money out of the country, irrespective of what the reason is, if it is more than 7 lakh rupees, 20% TDS. Okay, but it's easy to say that you get the money back when you file your returns, but it impacts your cash flow. So these are the kind of things which require interaction between the shipping ministry and the finance ministry to get these things done. Okay. And of course, the PLI scheme is working very well for manufacturers, and I think it should be, if not the PLI directly, some kind of incentive should be given to those in the service as well. Environmental challenges, these are huge. They're absolutely huge, and some kind of solution needs to be done if you have to trade off with this. And of course, legal compliances, that of course the government will have to take legal countermeasures to deal with this. Okay, now this is why are we saying that the commercials of this particular thing may be weak? Now, all India volumes in 2022 was 19.86, so almost 20 million. According to the UNCTAD annual report, a maritime report, which was also for 2022, the total volume handled by all ports in the world was very close to 400 million, which means India is doing approximately 5 million. Okay, so let's face the first challenge. We are not very big players in this field. Okay, we would like to say all these things, but honestly, we are not good. I understand very well that the future could be different because it took India 67 years to get for its GDP to cross 1 million, and then took only 6 years for it to cross 2 million, and then finally 5 years to cross 3 million, where we are now. So we are hoping that this will accelerate, but the fact is that incidentally China does 264 million, just to put things in perspective. Added to that, what is peculiar to this is 72%, almost 73% goes to the west coast of India, and only 27% from the east. And this port being located here, it is going to be very tough for anybody to say that they will attack West Coast targets. Don't forget, West Coast already has an established player in Colombo. There's a brand new port now coming up in Vilnius, and geographically it will not make sense for them to come all the way to Gelatia Bay. And the ships which are now coming, the latest one, AMICIE Symposum, is 400 meters long. And it will take 23,500 TEUs. Such a ship, to make a port call, it is very close to $200,000 for one port call. So they will very critically assess how many ports they're going to call. They're not going to call Gelatia Bay as well as Colombo as well as Vilnius. That's not going to happen. It will be one or the other. That's it. And as I also mentioned, the competitors are not keeping quiet. Singapore is expanding its capacity. Palapas is expanding its capacity. In Port Klang, they're even talking about building a brand new port at a place called Gelatia Bay. Okay? And then right here, I'm just talking to Captain Venkatesh because he's involved in this project. There is one right here in the northern tip of Indonesia, Sabah. And this place is hardly some less than 120 kilometers from Gelatia Bay. This is a brand new project. Huh? So this is also going to be competing with Gelatia Bay. And don't forget, if you are having an international transshipment in an island, which is not on the mainland, like Malaysia, okay, that means the cargo on its first leg has left the mainland. And if it leaves the mainland, then it's fair game for any of these guys. Okay, because all of them are in the same business, and this is international business. The last point I want to make is the peculiar situation that we are in India, where 97.2% of India's container traffic is carried by foreign shipping lines. I'm deliberately using the decimal to show that not even 3% is handled by Indian traffic. So, these shipping lines, they operate in all countries all over the world. And their view of any country will be determined exactly the same. Is this country giving me any incentive or is it giving me pain? And if it's giving me pain, I want to step aside. Okay? Because there's no emotion there. And therefore, I really don't know, even when we came to discuss this project, whether any interaction has been done with these foreign lines, because they're going to be the major customers going forward. Environmental concerns, as Neil just mentioned, very unique flora and fauna not found elsewhere. This particular monkey is a unique monkey because it eats crabs. No one else can eat monkey that eats crabs. And not surprisingly, the environmentalists have jumped in because there's so many other concerns. There's concern of ecology, concern of right of indigenous communities, tectonic volatility, and disaster vulnerability of this island. All these have been flagged. And there's an actual appeal now at the NGT, the National Green Tribunal, the Eastern Branch. And in this, the contention is that the project will have effort and the rich biodiversity in the area, damage the habitats, and it's a nesting ground for birds, and the project area has passed to the coastal regulation zone. This place was also quite badly affected by the tsunami of 2004. So these are genuine environmental concerns. And as it happens in almost all projects in India, the matter goes to National Green Tribunal, and Green Tribunals today put a stop on this until the environmental clearance given by the Ministry of Forest and Climate Change is re-evaluated. So that is the situation here. My last slide actually, some solutions. One is to increase activity and enhance the project revenues in the port. Okay. And as I said, I'm only going to be talking about old world economy things. The new world economy things are related to Mr. Krishnakumar. There's a whole host of new world opportunities, which what makes Gelatia Bay an expensive. Who's this? Sorry, who's one? Okay, one is, when I say crane construction, now these big cranes that we use, which we use here, almost 60% of the market is in China. 58% is one particular Chinese crane. So if you want to buy a crane, you have to buy it from there. Now, the European companies which are also in the crane business and which have been there much earlier, all suffer from one major disadvantage, which is number one, locational, because they set up their factory in Europe. Number two is, it's very tough for them to get space at the port. You need permanently key line so that you can construct the crane and then load it out on the barge to your customer. And then of course there is the geopolitical issue. People are looking at China plus. So I think it's a very strong case to talk with European crane manufacturers and ask them to set this up. And here the location is very, very advantageous. Okay, and let's not forget, this is on the main shipping line. Okay, coming down from Singapore like this, up down Sri Lanka, going to the Suez Canal, going to the Gulf, going to South Africa, going to East Africa, all these places. This is the main. Is that there is a huge amount of concern. See, containerization has also democratized shipping. Even the smallest guy who's got 1 cubic meter to ship will get an opportunity to sell in the container. He may not get it on a bulk ship or a break bulk ship, but he'll get it in the container. So now, what happens is that for very small containers, they do aggregation. They bring these cargoes meant for different ports from different origins to one place and then re-aggregate it and then send them to the destination. Singapore does this very well. On any day in Singapore, there are approximately 5,000 containers which leave the port, go inside to district parks where the re-aggregation is done, and then they come out. And this origin of this cargo is not in Singapore, the destination is also not in Singapore. So this is an opportunity which any transshipment terminal can do. And of course, we also know that these major shipping lines, there's consolidation. The 5 big shipping lines are now accounting for almost 75% of the world's cargo, and they've become really, really big. So it's worth talking to them to see if they would like to lease some land for some of their activities, including maintenance, repair. So these are some of the opportunities that straight away come to mind as to what can be done to make this project and its financials more viable. Okay, so with that, let me stop here, and at the end, of course, we'll be happy to take questions. So thank you.
The main speaker, which will be after the strategic important, but I think Suresh laid out a very nice foundation so that what is the scope of my presentation was nicely said. It is not about the container operations or technology advancement in port operations, which I am clueless about. But what I'm going to talk about, there are other opportunities, if I may say, adjacent opportunities to the port operations, where in the context of the emerging energy transition. So I saw in Suresh's presentation that there is a power plant in the port project, but that is mainly to supply power to the power deficient island. But what I am going to propose is there is a big level of opportunities to be a power creator, have a project, or expand the scope of the project to have a pilot project which is in line with this hydrogen economy and the net zero world. The net zero world is something, we are all grappling with in shipping. In shipping, this energy transition, we are very much screwed onto it. We know the targets we have got, but yet we do not know 8 years from now what are the fuels on the ship. We do not still know. So right now everybody is grappling on CII and reducing the carbon emissions. But we still do not know, the question before marine engineers is, will the internal combustion ever be there? It's actually a frightening question. If the internal combustion goes, what will marine engineers do? If it is some kind of an electrochemical fuel cell which comes there, how many people are required in these ships? And they will become highly digitized and remote controlled. So huge changes coming in the shipping sector. So, but this thing is about this port project, which I think has got a huge strategic importance, not only militarily and this, but from a potential possibilities of the future trajectory in this energy transition. So that is the broad framework of this. So to some extent it is connected to the great Nicobar power project, but as I said, that power project is meet the demand of the port. But what I am proposing is that this can be a supplier to the rest of India and the world. So that is my proposal of how to calculate. I have only had the opportunity to see the expression of interest phase 1. But I believe there is a phase 2 and a phase 3, and I'm sure I've never seen access to the Niti Aayog document. I'm sure the vision is much more bigger there, which I don't have access to or not seen it, or is it published in the public domain. So maybe I'm a little bit not on the top of it, but what I'm going to do is give a little bit of an education on what are the possibilities and what is this all about. What is this hydrogen economy? Everybody keeps talking to me. Recently, I was listening to 2 seminars organized as part of the G20. It was on energy transition. There were 2 sessions. One was on the hydrogen economy, the other one was on offshore wind turbines. So I'll just touch a little bit on that to say that these are all possibilities possible in this area, because we are talking about sea and offshore and about both. So I think all of us are familiar because we are from the shipping sector, but still some terminology will still focus. So what is zero emission? Zero emission shipping. I don't know when it is going to come, but that means a ship that doesn't produce any emission. It means it doesn't burn any fossil fuel. Period. And then what does it burn or what does it do? That may be a few, that could be an aspirational thing. Maybe it's going to take 20, 30, 50, 70, God knows. But there is another thing, a terminology which is called net zero. Net zero is saying that, okay, you try to balance and cancel by investing in new projects which will save the carbon. That means you are putting some carbon but you take it out and get an offset. That is net zero. So right now everybody is talking about net zero renewable. So very soon there will be these carbon offset kind of okay. This carbon offset is nothing but that companies can invest in other technologies which will give you a credit, financial credit. So there will be some taxes and other things coming in into both. That is a market mechanism which is coming. It is not only the market mechanism. If you look at this picture here, there is a whole set of this green, this energy transition funding. So using this carbon offsets and using these kind of the current carbon offset mechanisms which you can design into a project, you can attract funding. So this is the way most of the projects in the world are transitioning, using funding from green funding they generally call. Ships also will have these kind of funding, so you will have ships coming in which are ultra modern with zero emissions coming in using getting funding. It will take, because the other ships may not even attract funding. So that is the way this world is moving into the green transition. It is very big. So it is on this context that I am going to say whatever I am going to say, and what I am going to think. Now there is a concept which is called hard to abate sectors. There are some industries which is quite difficult to become green. One is long haul shipping, that is long haul transportation, shipping, airlines, etc. They are not easy to transit. Then there is industries like cement, steel, highly energy intensive, and you want to come into like the automotive short haul transportation is not that difficult. You can switch to batteries and other things, maybe easier. So there are these, and this shipping, ports and all come under this hard to abate sectors. So these will be a priority sector for investment. And even if you take shipping for instance, I think shipping a lot of framework has happened. If the ship has to go green and become zero emission, but most of the thing has to happen in the land. Whatever you are wanting to put in, unless the land gives the fuel. In shipping we have had this bunkering for years. So we had no problems with having that. But now, unless this supply chain becomes open, you will not have green shipping or anything. And this is not only for shipping, this is for everything. Cement, steel. So which means the new fuels must become much more rampant. And whatever we have right now of hydrogen, international vision for hydrogen has made the basic assumptions for that, which I will explain to you. So now even in the port, in the future, you will see that ships coming to the port, it is not just bunkering, not just a bunkering system. You need much more than that. You need to have a choice of fuels. Maybe you put these choice of fuels there, maybe you have these modern ships here. And what I thought, that these are all faraway things. Now, for instance, Cochin shipyard, this is recent, this year, they have already got orders for about 6 fuel-powered feeder container ships from I think it is Dutch logistic company. 10,000 TEU hydrogen fuel supplied. They have also recently got about 10 offshore wind turbine support vessels. All these are new companies, new investments, I am sure funded through the green. And why they came to Cochin? Cochin has already done some British India has already done some autonomous ships for these Norwegian people. Because there is some black box technology in all these things, they don't want to go to China and expose it. Because they gave the high-speed network, now they're going 1,000 kilometers per hour plane there. Because Chinese will easily beat them out. Indians, I don't think, at least as of now, we don't do that. There is some missing. Now, what I'm going to talk about is actually relates to both these things. Hydrogen powered. What is this hydrogen? What does it do? And then also the offshore wind farms. So these are the basic proposals I have for what the Gelatia Bay project can be expanded or done something on that area. Because this is already happened. When I returned from DNV, I saw this when DNV and GL merged together. I saw this autonomous battery powered short sea shipping. It's not great, it's a deadly idea. But I've never seen it in DNV because it was from GL. This technology was, and now you must be aware that GL doesn't exist. They just assumed everything is only DNV. So I never knew that such a short sea shipping, fully battery powered is now. Now you've got the Kochi Metro, the boats, they are fully electric. They are building for Varanasi, now they are exporting these kind of electric boats. So suddenly from nowhere, Indians have an opportunity to be builders and this thing of new age technology crafts for the world. So that is the context of what I'm saying. So hydrogen fuel powered thing and something for the offshore and wind farms. So this is my proposal, which I will expand a little bit. Of course, this everybody is clear because now I think it will be very clear. Clean energy, there is no question of coal or even if you have coal energy, you have to do something called carbon sequestration. That means the CO2 emission must be stored somewhere. It is possible that you can continue because overnight you can't switch. So whatever project, infrastructure projects you are going to build must have a strategy for clean, green energy and renewable energy. Now in this Gelatia port project, it is very, one line only is given an expression of interest that the project must have liquid handling. It may not say what liquid. It could be, it is certainly not oil fuel alone, it can be hydrogen, it can be anything. And it also says that it should be solar power. To some extent they have given a hint to renewable, but there is not a mention of wind turbine or there is not even the whole Andaman does wind map, there is a wind resource map of India. I don't think that Andaman area has ever been mapped. The whole of India has been mapped. And there are big things coming in Tamil Nadu and in Kutch. I will explain to you, big offshore wind farms are coming. So whatever you build an infrastructure project like this, you have to at least have 20 years of horizon of the future. So that is my main context on which thing you have to start thinking about it. What I do. Okay, now this is basically just a general comment that what happens in any project, initially it starts with energy efficiency. So you have to build all these things in the project, energy. In shipping also, what are we doing? Now you are trying to improve the energy efficiency by slow steaming and so many things you are doing. So energy efficiency is the first step towards this decarbonization. Then you start building energy efficient ships. Then this I mentioned about these are innovations. Fuel cells are later in. Then you come to alternate fuels and you have a whole set of opportunities. I think emerging from 8 years, 6 to 8 years, you will have hydrogen commonplace. Now, what is this hydrogen is what I want to spend a little bit of time because it's not commonly known. I've been doing a lot of research, quite interesting to know what is this a word without internal combustion engine for shipping. We need to think about what is it. So that is where I want to spend a couple of minutes on hydrogen economy. I'm sure all of you must have read about the national hydrogen mission. But before that, I want to give you a little bit of basic fundamentals. Hydrogen is nothing new. If you go to a refinery, you go to any place, all process industry, and they produce hydrogen. Plenty of hydrogen is there. That is why during the shortage of oxygen, you could easily, from these industries divert medical grade oxygen very easily and solve the problem of oxygen. Now, but hydrogen comes from methane or coal, and they use a process called steam reforming process. Now we are talking about another methodology for which the source is water. So you use water and use renewable energy and you get hydrogen. And this hydrogen will power the fuel. With the fuel cell, you can directly generate electricity. So this is quite a revolution, and it can come in big say that this hydrogen economy, government is betting on it. Government says this is the way for India to go for. And they are putting ambitions, they've got many things. Because in 2021, in the Independence Day, the Prime Minister announced this thing, and everybody is coming to the hydrogen pipeline. And there are many factories coming in up making electrolyzers and fuel cells. So this is big time. So in my view, we have to consider these for these new projects. Whatever they are. So just to give a little bit of a thing, so the starting point of this wind is a renewable, either wind, solar. Then you convert from wind, solar using water to make electrolysis. With the electrolyzers, you make hydrogen. Hydrogen is liquefied and you use fuel cell to generate power. So this is the basic concept. And it can be used in ships, hydrogen can be directly used in ships, it can be powered, various things. And hydrogen, in this fuel cell, this thing, it also produces. So for heating purposes also on the ships, they can use this. So it's quite a technology which is becoming more or less understood and implemented. Now, this is from a concept of the hydrogen value chain. But if you look at the fuel cell of the ship, you can see that hydrogen will be the fuel, or can be the fuel of the future. And then you will have hydrogen storage, then you have the fuel cells, and then you have maybe a battery for intermediate storage, and the power electronics and electrical things to drive the electric motors to propel the ship. So which means there is no internal combustion engine at all. It is all electric. So you have electrified it, you have stored the hydrogen and created electricity, and you can even store it. So there are holes and all these new ships which you are seeing are coming in this model. So there will be definitely. So this is quite a revolution. It might take 10 years for these ships to get transferred, but it is going to happen. Now, for example, not to go that far away, I was just reading that NTPC has put up one project. This company, BE, Bloom Energy, I don't know whether you heard about this. Bloom Energy is a company founded by an Indian. It's one of the big producers of microgrid products. They have already come up with a microgrid product. Microgrid project, so basically what they are doing is using solar power, they are powering the NTPC's guest house facilities and certain utilities there, for which they are using an electrolyzer made of solid oxide electrolyzer, creating hydrogen and then using fuel cells to power. So this is coming in the land. So why this microgrid project is very important, which means you don't have utility level this thing. You have to just ship hydrogen, which is a basic. You have to ship hydrogen and you can have electrolyzers at scale. You ship hydrogen and then you have fuel cells also, modular fuel cells. And then you can get power. So this can accelerate the energy transition significantly. Because India needs a lot of, we want to move on from the many industries, you can do it very quickly. And not only that, there are a lot of innovations in this coming. Containerized, stackable, even electrolyzers and fuel cells are already available. And these are stackable, which means you can quickly assemble them and move it to places and give oxygen, hydrogen, and hydrogen can be powered this and you get electricity. And it is zero emission. So this actually is quite a revolutionary thing, and there is no technology to be fully developed. These are already developed. You have to scale it. So this is with respect to what is this electrolyzers and fuel cells in this emerging zero emission power systems. That is the hydrogen economy. And there is a role for every infrastructure project to play this. And because the concept is something called power to fuel, that means from renewable energy, you are converting into hydrogen, and then hydrogen is stored and transported, and then it is used to power. So look at India's potential. We have covered with sea and water plenty in the sea. We have to just go hyper on this, and the technologies are also there. India can be an exporter of hydrogen. So India, instead of being an importer of oil, that is why Saudi Arabia and all those people, the Australia, why is Australia coming and being very close to India? Because they want to export to India their hydrogen. And they have already got plans, similar plans. Now India will also have, I'm sure, it's not a question of that this will happen in India. So now I'm coming back to the political level where we are. So the National Green Mission is already late. And if you look at it, they are also talking about giga-scale projects. The national, we must go and have a look at the National Hydrogen Symphosium document. And they are also talking about demonstration projects. Many demonstration projects. Here it includes shipping. What it talks about is, these are the goals of the hydrogen mission. And these are various initiatives which they will do, policy levels. So the government has already is on this pathway. And they have given here, even the port is a priority sector for demonstration projects. So my submission is, Gelatia Bay can certainly have a demonstration project on proving this hydrogen economy. And that will pave the way for all the ports to adopt. Because it's a brand new project, or maybe do it in some other ports. And it is not the Prime Minister's announcement. So the Prime Minister has announced this in the 21. They have come out with the National Hydrogen Mission document, and all the big Indian companies, like it's not only the Ambanis and the Adanis, but all Bharat Petroleum, all these NTPCs, all these people are committed. Huge amounts of money. So it cannot be so difficult because they must have seen certainly some attractiveness in this whole thing. So my guessing is that if there is container insufficiency, that should not be such a problem, because this project has got great potential being in that area, the water around. It's an island which is not that inhabited. Ecosystem, okay, we can, and I'll show you some world solutions in which how these are being done. That's why I made a small list. So the summary is that these kind of big scale electrolysis plants can be set up within this project premises. And there what you require is green energy, electrolysis, hydrogen storage, and then shipping. That means you ship this hydrogen very. So we have got the port, we have got maybe from a container transshipment, we should also have some liquid hydrogen. I think that is also being spoken about, terminals for liquid transport. So you can export into an opportunity. Maybe it is already there in the phase 2 and phase 3 of the Niti Aayog's vision. Because I cannot imagine that they would have missed this out, and because it is quite clear, because government has done so much. Okay, this is the hydrogen mission we already mentioned. Now I will show a couple of videos to just quickly put your frame. There is already in the Western world, how they are doing this is, if you don't have no space, or you've got environmental concern, they are making small islands, 30-40 acre islands. It could be natural uninhabited islands, or make artificial islands. I'll show you some video on how this is done in the Europe. And this will be packed, it's called an energy hub. It will be packed with electrolyzers, making hydrogen and shipping it. So this could be a big industry and powered by offshore wind farms. So my initial premise, it is based on some inspiration from such projects taking place in Europe. And in this kind of port, doing all this may not be such a big deal. But the fund has to be done, and then we have to have the vision and do this. So I will show a video, then it will become much more clearer what is it. Then another big thing, which I'm sure Vasan will talk about, is the blue economy. India has got vast resources in the ocean. So a long time back I heard the Minister Prabhu saying that the true reserve bank of India lies in the Indian Ocean. I'm sure you'll be supporting. There's so much of wealth in the Indian Ocean. And this area, and now we have got the Quad, and I'm sure that these will be touched by Komodo Vasan. And this is our territorial waters around the Atlantic. There are so many things to be tapped. So we cannot be going in a narrow way of just the container traffic and terminal and commerce. Because there are so many other things possible in this entire area. And if you look at the blue economy, even government has got a blue economy policy. It is also quite a fascinating thing to talk about, understand. Then, in the case of ocean, and I just want to spend a little bit of 2 minutes on why this is a big deal. Now, I was in DMV, I was a little fortunate that in 1990, a Danish project came in Mukandar, that is in Tirunelveli, India, for a land-based wind turbine. So something fell down and they wanted to do a damage survey. Since I was a ship surveyor, I went. At that time, I was really shocked. I saw one sophisticated contraption on top of a bullet. Because by 20 meters they lifted it, the crane broke or something like that. So I mean, my job was very simple. It was a Danish project. At that time, this was 250 kilowatt. Then now, each wind turbine in the land itself is now 5 megawatts. Now what we are talking about, offshore wind farms are 18 megawatts. They are even talking about 22 megawatts. And in India, because the wind speed is slightly low, offshore wind farms will be the wind farm will be 12 megawatts. So you can see just imagine you put up a wind farm here and it will just work. Producing green. We only need wind. And maybe at around 12, this will be about 14 knots of wind, it will turn and produce power. So here also a whole set of developments are taking place in the wind power. Now, I don't know how many of you are aware that near the Gulf of Mannar, this is one of the first places in Tamil Nadu's offshore floating plant is. And this is the Danish people only started the land-based project. Now they will come to the offshore and build this. And again, this is about 10 gigawatts. Now when you come to these things, you don't talk megawatts, you talk gigawatts. 10 gigawatt means they're talking about 60 offshore farms in one cluster. And that is where you require the offshore, and these are floating farms, floating these. I will show you a video to get that. So, but India has got, all over India, we have got 37 gigawatts additional things to build in the next few years. So which means all are big time, big scale, because this green transition is very big. Now, but if you look at our India's renewable mistake, you can see the solar has actually taken over the wind. Yeah, that's right. Okay, now, okay, now maybe I should continue. I have 5 minutes to show the video. Yeah, okay. I'll show the video just. So my conclusion is that this transshipment hub can get expanded into an energy hub, floating offshore wind farm, the use of the port infrastructure, and put giga-scale electrolyzers into that. So that will possibly offset whatever deficiency we may have in the main trade or the competition we may face. So that is my basic conclusion of that. But I'll show you one quick short video to show what happens in the rest of the world in these. It is about 6 minutes. I know I've exceeded my time a little bit, but I'm sure that is good. After that, we have only some cocktails and thank you very much.
Thank you.
But also an expert who's been advising people around the world on boat building, or Capt. Suresh, Amirapu, who are known for decades. I don't know if he remembers, when I was part of war at a major conference in Bombay, and he came there and did an excellent presentation. So it's always a great pleasure to be here as part of the AMICIE initiative, and to try and bring some dimensions of what I think is important as far as the development is concerned. The dimensions of good development, the environmental impact, etc. have been brought to a certain extent. I'll elaborate on some of these to exactly. Why I decided to flash this slide is what is it, the bottom is the most important. India never lost her independence. they actually lost the command of the sea in the first decade of the 16th century. Remember, the Cholas, the Kalingas, and everybody else was there, and in fact, the Nicobar was part of us. That's where they mounted their seaboard operations. The Punjabi characters on the west coast, the Cholas, and so we had a wonderful maritime tradition. So, however, the Mughals invading India, we lost this what's called the maritime outlook. Alright, so let's come to the subject specific. This is just things like that perspective. Some of this is already we got. Just tells you the centrality of what we are discussing today. This is the Gelatia Bay. Can you look at from Chennai, from Kolkata, it's almost a distance, for 200 kilometers. And Andaman itself is a long stretch of islands, 543 islands which are there. And you can see Nicobar, Great Nicobar is there, it's about 540 kilometers which is shown there, and another 695 kilometers. And we also have the Coco Island, which is very close by. I'll talk about it a little later. So there are other ports which are in Bay of Bengal. I'll show you in the next slide. But why I'm trying to show you this is to show how central Andaman Nicobar is in the strategic darkness. We consider it as the forward post of India. With an exclusive economic zone of 2.04 million square kilometers, there is a need to ensure that we have appropriate response mechanisms, whether it's during peacetime or during hostilities. So this is where we have the Navy, we have the Coast Guard, we have the Merchant Navy. Everybody only talks about the Navy on many occasions. So having been in the Navy for 34 years, I define National Maritime Comprehensive Power has nothing to do with the Navy alone, more to do with the way we build our ports, their organization, our fleet strength, which is dismally low as part of business, that 3%. No, this is where our weaknesses lie. The Navy is strong enough. There are no doubts that we are strong enough to defend our interests. But what is it that we are defending? So if there is a question which tells us that we have not done adequately, not progressed adequately in terms of bringing a maritime comprehensive power, CMP, comprehensive maritime power, which includes everything, includes components of the economy, the merchant fleet, the ports, the tourism, shipbuilding, ship repair, shipbreaking. All these are included in this dimension of comprehensive maritime power, which we lack. So we must first admit that we lack this. So some of these initiatives need to be assessed for what they perhaps can deliver in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 50 years from now. As we are still engaged in the process of building a Cmde. Right. So you can look at the Bengal ports. This is relevant to the context. So you can see that there are already so many ports there. Some of them are only servicing the coastal traffic, some of them are importing coal, importing energy products, etc., etc. And that was brought up by Capt. Suresh. There's only 23% which is on the resource. The balance is on the resource, 33% is on the resource. So, obviously, this is also an evolving dynamic of resource. A lot of things are happening. Bangladesh is being connected. Myanmar, we are trying to do business. We are trying to build corridors. So, all this will increase the potential of the resource. So, from 43%, we go to 30, 40, 50% in 10, 15 years, provided we plan for it. So, there, Gelatia Bay becomes a work of strategic importance. So, what is also important here is to see that red line which is shown here. That tells you that's the least stress corridor. You can call it the energy corridor, you can call it the trade corridor, you can call it the container corridor. Essentially, that is what connects the economies of Asia into economies of East Asia and beyond. Right? So, this is what we are looking at. This is roughly the orientation of the area that we are discussing. Diglipur on top. We also have Coast Guard on the various stations over there. And support stations. For that, Nicobar, Kamalata, Capt. So, this is where I also indicated what is the naval or Coast Guard stations that are there to ensure that our interests in the area are protected. Remember, in the 70s and 80s, the entire range of islands were forced regularly Mr. Fisherman from Vietnam, from China, having there, virtually camping there in these islands. Vasan and Navy had a time. The surveillance is a lot more. They're using helicopters, they're using drones. And therefore, they're in a position to ensure that the poaching has come down. I'm not saying it's totally absent, but so this is the issues of concern as far as island management governance are concerned. Right. This is the Gelatia Bay, which we are talking about. So what you see over here down below is the area. It's roughly about 130 square kilometers. So that's roughly the length of the Marina Beach, moved into 10 kilometers towards Mount Road, and that is 130 square kilometers which they identified for building up the Gelatia, which has this township, which has this power project. I hope media is taking cognizance of what Mr. Krishnakumar is saying in terms of how it should be developed as a hydrogen clean energy environment. I'm sure they are taken charge, but fortunately we cannot access the Niti document, which is I believe quite lengthy. We don't know what all is best flags. I hope they take this kind of inputs which are important for sustainable economic rise. Right. Now, Captain Suresh brought up about the monkey which he showed. This is also known as the nesting place for the leatherback turtles. So the flora fauna is something that will be affected. Let's face it. The estimate is that something like 10 lakh trees will be cut. There's one is to say that the environmental impact clearance has been obtained. So there's a difference between environmental clearance obtained and environmental clearance given. So you see the difference. So I'm not very good on this, but as of now, the EIA has been obtained. So this is where, so they said that something like this 10 lakhs trees have to be planted in Himachal Pradesh. There are those carbon trading in Spitsbergen, etc. But these are long-term plans, 20-30 years. So obviously this has four components. Obviously there is a power project, as I said, the seaport, then the township itself, and obviously the airport, which is supposed to service something like 4,000 passengers on a daily basis. Right. So what are the key areas of Gelatia itself? Before I move on to the strategic dimensions, this is what are the highlights. 41,000 crore investment. It's 40 nautical miles from the express trade routes. 20 meter depth is naturally available. Which is what we are actually on. An expression of interest apparently has been shown by 90. This came up in May, and it's been opened in May 5th or 6th of May. They got this, so we don't know what it contains. 16 million TEUs apparently, with 4 billion in the first phase. And airport township power plant. And there is a question mark with obtained. And 40% of transshipment in Colombo, 80% has in Gelatia, Singapore. This is the reality. So, if you want to override this, as was correctly brought out by Capt. Suresh, some incentivization has to take place. Otherwise, why would they bring anything? So the government has to work on a strategy, just like Dr. Mahathir did, and to say that, fine, we can go to Sri Lanka, but if you go there, there's a money that you pay to India. So that's the way you ensure that the whole ecosystem is not stretched. Okay. Right. So these are the islands. What is of importance to us is that the 10-degree channel, which is right there below Little Andaman, is something that carries something like 94,000 ships annually. 100,000 ships there. Those are the number of ships that are going up and down, and here is where the criticality of SOLs, which is the Singapore, Straits of Singapore and Malacca, that comes into play. And that's also identified as the Malacca dilemma for China, which I will dwell on a little later. Right. So this is just to give you an idea as to the strategic importance of this place. Where there's phenomenal number of shipping that's going, from one side to the other. It's servicing 85% of China's energy needs. And China's market-driven economy is dependent on the container traffic. Something like 90% of the ships are, after all, they belong to China, Chinese flags, which carry them around the world. Right. So, this is the question that we have to look at. Is it strategic? Is it commercial? Is it both? And if so, at what cost? And how do we ensure that the costs are minimized in terms of environmental degradation, in terms of other costs which are there, for which I'm sure there are many of suggestions which have been floated. So how much of these are implemented is the question. Now when you look at this, side by side I flashed a slide which tells you what is the session skills. How is it important? The Coast Guard is the global agency for maritime rescue coordination. And Andaman Nicobar, if you look at just the land area, is 0.2% of the total land area. 0.2%. But what is the exclusive economic zone it gives you? 30%. 30% of India's exclusive economic zone comes to you thanks to the layout of this from north to south. So the area around is up to 200 nautical miles, which gives you 30% of the exclusive economic zone. Is what has enriched India's total economic exclusive economic zone. Okay, so this is that is briefly mentioned that this is the kind of connectivity that is there, that has already been planned. It was launched from Madras, and that was what the sea cables have been already connected. I don't know what is the current speed, but when I was put there about a year and a half ago, I tried to connect on BSNL. They said, "Sir, कहाँ connect कर रहे हो?" I said, "क्यों भैया?" Said, "BSNL का मालूम है क्या?" You need to go there. So भाई साहब नहीं लगेगा. So the भाई साहब नहीं लगेगा was the story those days, that hopefully it's been over now. That is 100 gigabytes kind of a thing which has been connected now. It's 2,200 kilometers total length, and NEC Corporation has already handled the project. The Chennai connectivity is already taken place. Right. No, you must also know that along with the search and rescue program of innovative which is here, they are Palikarni swamps. They are doing a lot of job. They launched the National Database Program not today, some 30 years ago. And today it's mature, particularly after tsunami, when they even installed the tsunami warning watch. So they have a data network, when they're getting data information, it is sent to satellites, observed, downloaded, to get an analysis of bathymetric data, wind, currents, tide. All this is calculated regularly, they receive it in annuity, and that has been with a phenomenal amount of views in terms of prediction of storms, prediction of fisheries movement, prediction of tsunamis, etc., etc. So this is something which also is keeping in our strategic thrust for the area in the Indian Ocean. Right. So let's briefly talk about how Navy is integrated into the whole thing as far as the strategic outreach of India, which is a maritime power. After it's been a maritime power for centuries, and it's now again trying to reinvent its maritime production. Right. So this is the Navy's charter, which is the ability to protect national maritime interests, whether it's Gelatia Bay, whether it is Gelatia Bay or anything. So they have to have the capability to mount surveillance efforts and have a response mechanism both during peace and during conflicts. Right? And then of course the Indian Ocean region continues to be the primary area of focus. Because the maritime neighborhood is complicated. There are Bangladesh, Myanmar, Sri Lanka, Maldives was in the immediate vicinity. There are Mauritius, Seychelles, the outer extremity. And there's a need for us to keep this entire area surveillance. And Indian Navy does it by using bonds called the maritime domain awareness. This is a well-measured program which came into being of 1999 group of ministers report of the Cargill, and which of course got accelerated after the network of radar stations. If you see the lighthouse here, see there's always a radar which is rotating along with that. There's also got certain devices which tell the Coast Guard here next door. They can look at the silhouette of an identified vessel by synthetic aperture radar. So there's an integration of the data that's collected and is sent to Delhi at the AMICIE Center in Gurgaon, where there are many important navies who are participating on a regular basis to get a transparent picture of the movement of ships. Of course, all of you as mariners would know about the importance of the AIS program, and so this is something which also fits into the system, and your Director General of Lighthouses provides that kind of information. So all this is correlated and provided and analyzed at Delhi. And of course, then the India's interest forces, which is, like I said, the primary interest is Iran. The secondary interest will continue to be the Indo-Pacific. Why? Something like $5 trillion of economy moves through the table. South China Sea is not something which belongs to China. And therefore, we have a legitimate interest in ensuring that these trade interests are protected. And for this, we have the famous free and open Indo-Pacific as a concept, and rule-based order. Now, what is this rule-based order depends on how China interprets these rules on one side and how the West and the rest interpret it on the other side. So these are some of the challenges that are there as the global order is challenged and is trying to sort of come to new terms. Nuclear seabed deterrent is important. Why I am saying this is that in Bay of Bengal today, Visakhapatnam is the base of the nuclear submarines, and we should be very proud of the fact that not only do we launch China's Ariane, which gives us the sea-based defense capability, and their follow-ups have come out. We don't hear much about it in the newspaper, but the fact is that they are operational and carry out operational patrols in Bay of Bengal and also in the South China Sea. So they are the ones who provide the deterrence for, particularly when it's important for us to pursue the NFU, no first use policy. The idea is, let's protect that we will not use nuclear weapons. However, if we are attacked, we will not hesitate to retaliate with force. And that's where this nuclear sea-based defense is of great importance. So, Bay of Bengal, Port Day, Gelatia. I am saying this, Gelatia may be a commercial port, but we are looking at it, we all look at the concept of dual-use ports. So just because Bombay is a commercial port, it doesn't mean the Navy doesn't operate from there. Of course, it got more products and good cargo. But what I'm saying is that once you have Port Bay in Nicobar, you have Gelatia Bay. This offers you the advantage of redeploying your assets depending on the phase of operations. Right? And ability to counter both traditional and non-traditional threats of the West Coast, all the materials are quite aware of the Parisian threats which were there. When everybody came together of Somalia, they had the combined maritime force, they had the Royal Brunei force, Indian Navy, Chinese Navy, 17 navies were there at one time, trying to ensure that people pass through the high risk area, without risks. Right? And of course, I mentioned briefly about the maritime awareness. This is even more important in the Andaman Bay. I remember till 2001, which was exclusively run by the Navy, by the Fortress Commander in Nicobar. In 2001, we moved on to a joint services department, the first of its kind in India, where we rotation the Navy, Army, Air Force commanders taking charge of the Andaman Nicobar. It has become extremely important for us in deterring China, and which is where China is very worried about Andaman Nicobar. Also, therefore, we are looking at strengthening Nicobar, building their ports along this, find a basis in Nicobar. So all this will has to be not only in isolation of Gelatia Bay, but as an integrated strategic response architecture that will come into place in a matter of 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, but the point is that this is ongoing mechanism to build a credible, one, security architecture, two, an HID architecture. All of you are familiar with this term, humanitarian assistance, disaster relief, and that's essentially to do with peace and activities. Operating aid to fishermen, rescuing people, preventing illegal immigration, those kind of things. Right? And capacity and capability to merchant territories. Gelatia Bay is part of this capacity and capability build. You have to have something in the being. It's a force in the being, if you want to look at it, or a facility that's available to you as a dual-use port in tandem. Previous nuclear submarines, conventional submarines, extending the reach into the areas of adversaries. Right? So, when you look at the China factor, because there is no discussion today, we are from the Chennai Center for China Studies. I forgot to introduce the Chennai Center for China Studies, which was part of my brief. So let me quickly tell you about Chennai Center for China Studies. It's the only think tank outside of Delhi that focuses on China. There's only one other think tank in Delhi which is the Institute of China Studies. So we completed 15 years of existence on total. And this was started by a group of former IAS officers, IFS officers, Navy, Army officers, professors, businessmen. We all came together. It's a voluntary organization. Started putting in money from our pockets. We started running this. And the good news is that we achieved our objectives. And 2017 to 2020, the COVID, after that, this rating system came to a stop because the founder, Professor James McGann, he passed away. But for those 4 years when they carried out the think tank ratings around the world, very happy and proud to report that we were ranked number 1 amongst all the different think tanks in the world. So that was, and the credit goes to all the investors who are here, and this is our aim today. So basically, the reason why we are successful is because of our voluntary organization. We are not for profit. We are doing it because of our love for putting these areas of study. So we have about 30 members, we're all from this diverse background, and we have about 288 members who are in digital platform connected with us. Only requirement they should be interested in chat. And in the last 5 years, there are 84 interns who have passed course, and every one of them, some of the interns are here today. And it's compulsory for them to publish either a monograph or an issue brief or an attestation brief. So all these are published both in the print media and in the digital media. And we also have MOUs with ICW, with the Pathfinder Foundation, which is signed on 4th of April in Sri Lanka, then with the Tibet Policy Institute in Dharamshala, and then also with the Chennai Studies Forum, which is consists of us, then ICS, the Institute of Architecture Studies, Bangalore, the PII Bank in Taramani is a prestigious here, and of course the RI in Raष्ट्रीय रक्षा एजेंसी. So we are together. The idea is to try to look at the China in the most specific term. So we come up with a lot of publications on a regular basis. Our fortnightly updates on China Watch is regularly looked at. Sapna is here, who is now the senior research officer, and she has brought some brochures for you to give. You can become a member and contribute to what we do. So this is sorry, I forgot about introducing the CPS earlier, but this is invented with the help set anything about our organization. And I look forward to your support as far as our activities are concerned. For the last 3 years, we're getting a small support to the APM and 2 years for the work. And so that has contributed to greater productivity and right. So as far as the China factor is concerned, one is China has invested heavily in our economy. So the medical initiative, all of you are familiar with. This was something which was launched by Xi Jinping in 2013. So it's 10 years in a decade. Now the experiment as far as we are concerned in our assessment is something which is I would say a failure than a success, because it has not done the benefits. They have let these smaller countries along the debt trap, so they are not being able to pay back. Countries like Sri Lanka have had to part with ports like Hambantota for 99 years. So some of the African countries have had to make fervent appeal for deferment of loans. Mahathir in India, Malaysia, renewed their projects. Pakistan is in turmoil. Gujarat and others which are there in the China POK economic corridor. A lot of them call them as CPEC, China Pakistan Economic Corridor. The American Parliament every time refer to this as China POK Economic Corridor, because it's passing to Pakistan and country. Otherwise, we will be legitimizing this. So, this is something which is affecting things in our neighborhood. Particularly in the ancient period, there was a lot of, before we had about BRI, the kind of money that's coming in, every country wanted development and assistance, and this led to they falling into the trap. Because every contract that we get, Bangladesh will be able to tell you, every contract which you get right in Colombo, Port City, Hambantota, anything was something like 80% of the money went back to China. Well, the contractual terms were right. The engineering equipment will come from there, the skilled labor will come from there, our technicians will come from there, the blueprints will be according to us, we will charge you for making the blueprint. So this is how they took back the money that they claimed to invest for development television. So this model has been seen and people are settling them. Therefore, the BRI is, everybody is reviewing BRI and people are unhappy about it. Energy security, the China is vulnerable to energy security because it cannot sustain its rate of growth. It came by being COVID. It cannot sustain it unless it can ensure that 85-90% of the energy is coming from other sources. The Russia equation is also related to this of the plan. Malacca dilemma, essentially, everything has to go through Malacca. And Port Blair is very bizarre. It's just stones thrown away from Amirapu. So, we are concerned about it to see that if there is war, then can India, which is geographically blessed, can it come in the way of China's plans to be a part in the Indian Ocean region which can challenge both USA and India? Indo-Pacific contestation, the new definition is Indo-Pacific. This came about in 2007 when President again came about and said, we need the confluence of nations, the Indian Ocean and the Pacific Ocean. That's why the concept of Indo-Pacific came about. The definitions are different, but the point is today, in terms of what it has delivered, we have at war. It's not a military alliance. AUKUS is a military alliance, right? So whereas this alliance has given us a lot of initiatives in terms of vaccine diplomacy, health diplomacy, STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics initiatives. There are 100 students are today studying in America. 25 from India, I think 25 from India are also from all the continents. So there are phenomenal amount of benefits in terms of what has done to counter China. It's also related to the so-called supply chain initiatives. So they're looking at the resilient supply chain initiatives, which means moving away from China. You can't deal from China. Let's get this straight. Having allowed China to develop that vibrant mechanism, which is at the center of the manufacturing and supply hub, it's impossible to take China. But you're moving away from them in a graduated manner. So that's right. So of course, Indian Ocean, China would like to not challenge India as such. It's trying to challenge America and become the global power. And therefore, it requires a navy. It has a navy, but it's not of the same size and shape as that of America. America has 12 carriers, nuclear powered carriers. So it's got 3 carriers, out of which none of them are connected to Indian Ocean. Yet, they are not across the polar. These are realities, harsh realities. Indian Navy, which launched Vikram on 1st September, I was lucky enough to be at Cochin. You would have seen last week, night landing of the MiG-29 was carried out. Okay, so because it's in our blood, 1961 onwards we will not make it again. So it's not easy to be a blue ocean navy, and not that I'm not claiming that we are there. But I'm saying that it's easy for us to be one because of the geographic advantage that we have. We have access to the southern Indian Ocean, to the east coast, to the west coast. The west coast closer to the energy hubs, east coast, which is consistent with our base policy. Right, border disputes are started up for years with no inside. This is the harsh reality again. So the import-export figures, if you look at it, you think that everything is normal. It's not so. But I think the government of the day and the external affairs minister particularly have made it clear that business cannot be as usual. So if that's the case, China will continue to be a challenge for us. So how do you deal with this? Gelatia Bay is one subsystem of the big system of our responses. Right? And poaching in India neighborhood, this is happening not only through DRI, but so-called scientific technological assistance, fishermen assistance. Capt Nicobar tell you about this. They suddenly have come to northern Sri Lanka, saying they are going to help you, breed those sea cucumbers in captivity. All this is a way to keep a watch on what is doing. So Coco Island, I'll talk about Coco Island later. This is to monitor what's happening from our Chandipur, Orissa coast, where we are launching our missiles, and also to keep a watch on the movement of our nuclear submarines, which are to get reinforced. Right? And increased inclusion that we have ships. This has come out. In fact, I think so this is another thing that's happened there. Every naval chief on December 4th will tell you how the number of ships that are coming into Indian Ocean region from China are increasing. All descriptions. Big ships, small ships, research vessels, fishing vessels, are equipped to carry out sloping. You heard about the YW5, which had become a small bit of a contentious issue between them. It became a triangular contest, but finally they were able to come into shape. Okay, right? So this is coconut, which is again in the news. It's not today. This was gifted and one of the most governors responsible for this. So that today, of course, that's become political. And so what is it that we have not taken, what is it that we did not do? So I'm not going into the political dimensions of what was so apparently we could have held this with us. We gifted it away to Burma, now Myanmar, and this is what is available. And the satellite pictures, there is one Colonel Vinayak Bhatt. So he has carried out a lot of satellite analysis. Here the guide questions are not shown there. We can look at them and he's successfully looked at these satellite images, telling how much of what is going on in terms of reclamation of the river, in terms of building up listening devices, radar of course, runways, extending the runway. The reclaiming some of the area to extend the length of the runway. What the pattern previously was that every time you issue a notice to say I'm launching a missile or I'm carrying out some experiment, they completely equipment with someone 2 or 3 aircraft, so would set up their listening posts and monitor everything and go back. But they now would like to have some kind of a permanent basic facility. So apparently India is big in this problem. They are trying to put pressure on Myanmar to say that you can't do this to us, because of reason. But that's something very good. So what you see here is only one picture I prepared from Vinayak Bhatt. There are at least 10 or 15 of them, which you can see later. So let me tell you the kind of money that is being pumped in by China to shore up the mechanism they for submarines. Okay. So this is actually the last slide. I thought there are a lot more that I wanted to talk, and I said let me have something for question answer session because there will be nothing for Q&A. So this is an important thing that was said that who are controls and emotion denomination. Ocean will be the way to the 7th century, 21st century. So this thing that the world will be decided by the waters. So more specific to today's presentation, what is happening on east Asia will be decided by developments there in the month. Right? And because that's where our response mechanisms are being tweaked and dual use purpose ports. So there is always a cost that you pay, which is also a point that capitalization to say that development defense is always an issue of it. So how much would you invest in development and at what cost? And is it something that's worth it? Is a question that constantly haunts all nations, not just us. That is Bombay, Mission, India, others. But also there is another question. Whenever these endangered species are threatened, they find other places. It's not that they just raise their die. No, I was in the Coast Guard for 3 years and saving of Hollywood Ridleys was the biggest task at one time for all the Christian states. We should be back with them. But I always have one question and say, okay, we are trying to save Hollywood Ridleys. It's one species, endangered. But in the entire food chain, because you are saving them disproportionately, what is the impact on the other species? Has any study been done of that? So these are kind of some issues which we can't answer. I'm not a professional on wildlife or but that's the point. So coming back to the point of this, Gelatia Bay is essential. We need to work on this. And all these new suggestions that were made by Mr. Krishnakumar need to be incorporated. So there is a model way to develop without environmental degradation. So we presume that these 130 square kilometers that we are trying to clear it, hopefully does not cost too much of environmental degradation. But that's something that will happen. And when you create a meeting like, again, Capt. Suresh about the fact that you have about 3,000 people who are going to live there. So you have a system. And that brings in a certain amount of pressure on the surroundings, forest, 10 lakh trees. You can imagine, looking at one tree, you are always enamored by it looks, but you're looking at 10 lakh trees, you get to 7 lakh. Which brings me back to the article that I wrote in 2014. This government had just taken over North Kingdom Island, still on the academic level. they wanted to set up a radar station. And the environmental lobby at the time said, no, there's one particular bird which is likely to be affected. So by 2014, they had just taken over, and within I think 3-4 months, the environmental clearance was obtained, cleared. So same problem, if that radar station went up in the administration. So at what cost? 10 years down the line, we need to be in process and see how much of degradation was there. Did these birds that was endangered, did it move away to some other line? So these are questions which are there. So the strategic dimensions of development and Andaman Nicobar are not just looking at Gelatia Bay, because there are target developments which are taking place around the entire Andaman Nicobar area. When you look at the number of ports which are there are no ports beyond Colombo, Milan and Singapore. So will it be a potential alternative to this? If so, what kind of incentivization is to take place? So with that I end my presentation with the idea. Jai Hind.
From the Vasan, who has actually linked the Navy aspects with commercial. Looks like a bit of grey area there. Not everything is on radar, or we are taking sides here, but forget it. Government will decide. As they say, there is time and place for all this. Trade is going, India is doing well, and so thanks to Retd, who has spoken before, who welcome all of you. So I don't want to speak anymore, but we cannot chat during drinks and snacks. Thank you very much. We hope to see you again.